Word of prayer, shall we bow our heads, please? Father, I thank you for the opportunity to again study your great creation and help us to become aligned to it instead of fighting it all the time. I ask that you'll give us each wisdom to be able to comprehend the material that will be presented today. And please protect those who are late. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so today we're going to cover a subject of soil compaction and biological inoculation. These two issues are very, very vital in order to be able to fix your gardening problems. Okay, so the first thing we're going to cover is soil compaction. Basically, when you see a tree that does this, have you seen that? That means it was grown in a compacted soil. The roots did not go down, they go laterally. The vegetables do the same thing. So you have to understand the principles of compaction and what's going on. You see that? We were on a trail. This was an old farmstead in Gainesville that we were walking on. And that tree that fell over because it was not deep enough roots. Now, the Bible says that we should put our roots deep into the Word of God, right? We're supposed to understand the deep things of the Word of God, and basically, it's the same principle. When you grasp this concept, you want to be a deep student of the Word of God, not shallow hearers. Okay? Now, if you see roots coming out of the ground, it's because that ground is compacted. Roots don't naturally come out of the ground. So, if you see that, you know you have a problem. So keep that in mind everywhere you go. From now on, whenever you trip over a root, you'll say, compacted soil. All right? Now, this is from a scientific journal from the USDA government. What is compaction? Okay, compaction occurs when soil particles press together, reducing pore space between the particles and pushing out the air normally located there. A severely compacted soil can become effectively impermeable. What does impermeable mean? Does anyone know? It cannot be penetrated either by water or by roots. So that's what we call runoff. When you have runoff, it's caused by compaction of soil. Normally, water's supposed to hit the earth and percolate into the soil. But if you have it running off, you know your soil is compacted. Now, there is a point to which, if you got 10 inches in 2 hours, there's no soil in the world that's going to absorb that much unless it's a rainforest or something. Now, compaction can result in shallow plant rooting and poor plant growth, influencing crop yield and reducing vegetative cover available to protect the soil from erosion. By reducing water infiltration into the soil, compaction can lead to increased runoff and erosion from sloping land or waterlogged soils in flatter areas. That comes from the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. So, that's what we're trying to avoid. Now, this is a compaction meter. I own one of these. And it tells you at what point your soil is compacted. In other words, if it's at 6 inches, 9 inches, 4 inches, or whatever. And basically, I'll show you how this works. This is a compaction meter. Basically, it tells you how compacted your soil is. So what we're going to do, where I park my tractor, is the most compacted spot on my whole property. So, I'm going to push this in the earth, and when it hits 300 pounds per square inch, it'll tell me how deep that is. Why don't you come over here, Dan, and we'll look at this meter. Just look at the meter. All right, now we're going to go up. When we hit 300 psi, you see it going up, going up, going up. I'm pushing it down into the earth. Right there, it hit 300 psi. Okay, now back up. Okay, so let's see how deep 300 psi is. 6 inches, maybe 4 inches. That's all. 4 inches. That's how deep 300 psi is. Because I parked my tractor. Roots cannot penetrate that. Neither can water. So you get runoff. Now let me show you. Now, this is a real tree. Okay, this is not an artist's drawing. But the soil compaction, you see that spot right there? You see that layer? That's the compacted soil. It almost 100% of the time turns black. Now, why would it turn black? Well, it's because you fertilize, you fertilize, you fertilize. The fertilizer goes down there, gets caught in that one area, and turns it all black. And golf courses have a worse problem with that than anybody does. But that black layer right there is the compacted 300 psi. Roots cannot penetrate it. There's only a few roots that can go through 300 psi. Pine can do it. Okay, so a pine can do it, lodgepole pine, redwood forest probably could do it. But anything else, it can't penetrate it. They said something like 96% of plants cannot penetrate 300 psi. Water cannot go through it. Now what will happen is if you get this layer, you'll have water underneath, you'll have water up here, and they will not go through. And it will cause poison to set in. What will happen is once it hits that compacted layer, all that poison, it will poison this whole area and kill all the biology dead. And eventually your trees will die. Your plants will die, your vegetables will die, everything will die. Now they were taking out this forest of fruit trees. I think it was mango trees. And it looks like mango. Mango? It look like mango to you? Okay, but I think it was mangoes. You see it's a tropical area because there's banana trees. But they went in and took out this whole forest of trees, and it was only because of the compaction layer. Could you have repaired that? Can you repair that? Yes, you can. You didn't need to take out the trees to do it. You could repair it. So what you want to do is learn the methods of repairing it, and we're going to show you some of that today. Here's another tree that was dying, and they couldn't figure out a reason why, and it was because of the compaction layer right there. All right, now I just emptied this grow bed because this particular grow bed hasn't been producing for a number of years. It's a concrete grow bed. It's 50 foot long, 4 feet wide, and 24 inches deep, down to the natural soil. And I made these out of wood, you see, but this was made out of concrete. And I like the concrete better. It's really nice to sit on when you weed, okay? So this works really well, but for a couple of years now, it's been diminishing. And I said, I'm just going to take this soil out and put this new biological soil that I've been producing in it. So I took it all out this week. Actually, Robert and Nicole helped me take it out, and Andre, and we all got together and we did this. But I want you to see this. You see the black? The compacted zone. All right, so I could have fixed this without taking it all out. And the way you do it is you punch through that compacted zone, and I'll show you in just a little while. But that black right there is an indication that I had a compacted zone. So while I was taking this layer off, I just said I'm going to go down below this compacted zone. You can see it here, you can see it here. So I started just shaving it off until I got below it. So I want to get all that poison out of that bed and then put in some new stuff. All right? Now, what causes compaction? Well, first of all, heavy things like tractors, cows, can cause compaction. You think about a cow's hoof. It's about that big, and he's got, what, 2,000 pounds sitting on 4 hooves, and it's squashing that soil, and it compacts it pretty heavy. Lack of biology. So if you kill your biology in the soil with Roundup and pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and fertilizers, you will cause compaction. Tillage, plows, rototillers, harrows, all of it causes compaction. We're going to see some of this. Toxic chemicals. Rain on unprotected ground is probably the largest single thing that causes compaction of soil in Florida. Now, my father was a park ranger, and he lived one time for 9 years on an island in the Gulf of Mexico. The only way to get there was by boat. And they had these jeeps and trucks in these all through the island, and they would drive up and down and the island. They would go there by boat. My brother would go to school by boat. Everything was all by boat. And they always carried a 5-gallon bucket in the bed of the truck. And I said, Dad, why do you have that 5-gallon bucket back here? And he goes, son, he said, when we go out on the beach, it's really sandy soil. And he goes, the way to compact it, when we get stuck, is just take a bucket, dip it in the ocean, pour it around the soil, around the wheels, and it hardens it like a rock. And that'll tell you something. Because if you don't have plants or some sort of protection on that soil, you plowed it, you dished it, it looks beautiful and it rains, it compacts it hard as a rock underneath. Okay? So you want to avoid unprotected ground. Soil low in organic matter will compact better, quicker than soils that have high organic matter. Now, here's the compaction zones that tractors leave and cows leave. And Roundup kills all the biology in the soil. You guys know if you spray Roundup in your field, you kill every single biological element in your soil. And you don't want to do that. That's just not the best way to do it. Also, glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, it blocks the uptake of selenium in plants. Now, I don't know if you know this, but you must understand this from a health perspective. 20 years ago, 1 in 100 people got cancer. Today, 1 in 2. Now, why would that be? Why would that doesn't mean all of them die of cancer, but 1 out of 2 people are going to get some form of cancer. And most of it is because we destroy the gut bacteria, the friendly gut bacteria, we allow the pathogens to grow by eating all these chemicals, and then we block this essential element. Do you know that selenium is the single most powerful antioxidant in the world? And we don't get it in our plants because we spray all the fields with Roundup or glyphosate, and then we plant our plants in there, and they cannot uptake selenium. Okay, so this is a big mistake when we're getting all of these diseases. All of these diseases are related to low selenium. Is that amazing? Now, here is an interesting thing of AIDS. And I shared this in church one day. And AIDS, they have taken these 2 partners with AIDS, and then one gets AIDS, one doesn't get AIDS. One gets AIDS, one doesn't get AIDS. One gets AIDS, one doesn't get AIDS. And what's going on here? So the scientists started doing studies, and you know what they found? The one that didn't get it had high selenium. The one that did get it had no selenium. Selenium is a key element in your health, and you're not getting it. I went to a class in Ohio on the biological farming, and this scientist from England, he's from Oxford University, they did this study. And they went to this farm, and this guy, he said, they had thousands of cattle out there, and he said to him, how many cows do you lose on average a year? He goes, well, I lose 5 to 7 a month. He said, 5 to 7 a month? That is really high. He goes, you know, I've been doing this 40 years. I've been losing 5 to 7 a month every month. And he goes, well, now let me put this in perspective. How old are your cows? He goes, under 3 years old. He goes, well, that's about like a 12, 13-year-old. Now, if you went to a junior high school and it had 2,000 kids and you lost 5 to 7 a month, wouldn't you think that's a little high? And he said, yeah. And he goes, I'm going to do you a favor. We're going to cut your pasture in half. You give me half your cows, and you take half your cows. You do the same thing on this half of the pasture that you've always done, and on this side, I'll fix the problem. And he goes, all right, Mike, let's do it. So they cut it in half. He had this grant. They put this fence all the way down the middle. They flipped the cows back and forth, all the way down. 7 years they went through this. What they found, it didn't have any selenium in their fields. He sprayed selenium on and a little compost tea on the leaves with some minerals from seaweed and some not glyphosate, but azomite, which has a lot of minerals. And they went in and they sprayed it on the fields twice a year. Now, on the other guy, they put on fertilizer. And they put fertilizer on 2,000 pounds an acre a year for 7 years. And through that 7-year process, the side that they put fertilizer on got less and less fertile. And the other side got more and more fertile. Because they put the biology in there with it. Right? 2 times a year, that's all they did. Spray it with some seaweed, some selenium, a little bit of selenium. It was a cup of selenium over like a 200 hectare field, which was huge. That's 2.41 acres to a hectare. So it's a big field. So here, they just added a little selenium to it. Do you know how many cows they lost in 7 years on the side with selenium? None. Do you know how many cows they lost on the other side that they didn't add the selenium? They lost not 5 to 7, but 3, because it was cut in half. They had 3 to 4 a month. Selenium is a key element for disease control. Just remember that. And we do not have it in our soils in Florida. So if you're going to grow your garden, add some extra minerals to it. And there's a mineral called azomite. I buy it by the ton. And I use it in all my gardens, all my fields, and everything. I spread it everywhere. It has 67 minor elements in it, just so I get every element that we might need. Okay?
What do you spell it in?
Azomite. A-Z-O-M-I-T. Azomite. You can also get C90, SEA90, which has 90 minerals from the ocean. They just distill water, and you don't want to put it on too heavy because the salt content might be a little high. C90. Do you just want to do a little foliar feeding every once in a while? Just spray it on your leaves. It'll soak it right up through the stomates of the leaf. Okay? All right, here we go. You put a fungicide on, kills all your bacteria, your stuff. If you use organic fertilizer, it destroys all of the biology in your soil. Black cow, chicken manure, you think that's good stuff. It's not. It's full of antibiotics that they've been feeding these animals for years and years. And what do antibiotics do? It kills bacteria, right? You don't want to do that. Okay? Now, when you put pesticides on things, these guys cover themselves up like crazy, but they spray all of these fields, and they have this drift. And my friends that are farmers, they do this every single week. They put a pesticide, a fungicide, or herbicide on every single week. They put concoctions that they mix together. We have these charts to follow. They got them on their walls. I can mix this with this, I can mix this with this, and I'll put it all at one time, and I'll spray my fields, and they go around with these little tents on their bodies. But the farmers are the highest rate of cancer in the world. Why would we want to do that? Okay, so if you till your ground like this, you're going to kill them all, and you're going to create compaction. This is about compaction, okay? Everybody thinks they're doing themselves a favor, but they get in these little rototillers and put them on the back of their tractors. They get nice, fluffy ground. What happens? This only goes about 4 to 6 inches deep. What happens to that layer underneath? It gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And I'm going to show you these pictures as we go through here. That plow, it's called a moldboard plow. It's the worst plow in the world. It flips everything over, all right? When you go through the field, it takes that organic matter and puts it underground. Now, what's the difference between aerobic and anaerobic? Air. Okay, aerobic is a lot of air. You want your soil to have lots of air. And in order for that organic matter to break down healthfully without pathogens, you have to have air to it. But they're putting it upside down, packing on it, and then they're stopping the air. Okay? And when you look at these fields, now here is the horizons. When you look at soil, that's what you see. You've got the old horizon, and then you've got, this is the humus area right here. This is where the humus is. And as you go down through the soil, you're just going to see it lighter and lighter. Anybody that's dug a hole will see that. That's normal, healthy soil, where you have organic matter, and as it's being broken down by the biology, it turns into humus, and this dark, rich 6 to 10 inch area is full of nutrients and biology if you don't mess with it. Okay? Now, here is a compacted soil in a field. They wondered why, and the scientists wondered, why is this field doing poorly? Well, if you'll see, this is where they dissed it with a harrow. This is where the plow was. You see it? And it created a compaction zone right under it. And the roots can't penetrate it. Here is the disc, here's the plow. Compaction zone, and it's sitting about 9 inches. Okay? That's what happens. The roots are all above ground, above, on the top surface of the soil. Then when you have a drought, what happens? They die. But if they were going like roots are supposed to go deep in the earth, they wouldn't do this. You wouldn't have a problem when it didn't rain for 2 months. It would still be growing because it gets the water from the subsoil. Okay? Now, when it hits this compaction zone, and they're showing a 400-pound compaction zone, and to be honest with you, when I was pushing that compaction, I couldn't push it 400 pounds because I don't weigh 400 pounds. But I got it jumping out a little bit. I got it to 300 because I'm 200 pounds. So don't tell my wife. Okay, all right, now, this is the plow that they used to pull in the 1800s and early 1900s behind a horse. That's not a moldboard. All its purpose is to dig a furrow for the seedbed. And do you think that now in the movies, they don't have a clue, but in the movies, you show them going up and down, back and forth in the whole field, right? They didn't do that. They dug a furrow, okay? They dug a furrow for the seedbed. That's what they did. They didn't plow up the whole field, turn it all upside down. They did a study recently. Here is the first plow. Who made the first plow? John Deere. You're a smart man, Carter. I'll tell you. You must read all the time. That's right. That's John Deere. That's in the Deere Pavilion in Iowa. And that plow, all it does is cut a furrow. That's all it does. And if you took the moldboard plow and you put it on and made horses pull it, how many horses do you think it'd take to pull it? Okay? Because it's pulling through this earth and flipping it upside down. It takes pretty big horsepower to pull that. Trust me, because I own one of these. All right? Now, look at how much power that thing has, and it takes this, flips it upside down, takes all that organic matter and flips it upside down. All right, you see what it's doing? All right, and look at how they cut this field, and you can't even see any of the green matter there. It's all upside down. You're becoming an anaerobic environment for pathogens. That's how many horses it takes to put one moldboard plow on. Do you think any farmer in the 1800s or early 1900s owned 2 draft horses to pull one plow? That's the only way they could pull a moldboard plow behind a horse. They didn't. They used it for furrowing. That's all they used it for. Now, it took 4 mules to do it. 4 mules and 2. Nobody owned 4 mules. They wouldn't have even thought about running a plow, one plow, up and down a field with 4 mules. They wouldn't have done it. They couldn't afford it. What they did was they had one little horse that pulled a little furrow plow, and all they did was cut a furrow to put their seed in. That's all they did, though, in those days. This plow is a relatively recent invention, and what's interesting is we're going away from it as fast as we can go away from it in farming. Every farming meeting, they say, throw the plow away. It is a killer. It creates pathogens. Now, bare soil, when it rains on it, it creates all kinds of problems in compaction. You don't want bare soil. You either want to cover crop on it or cover it up. And I'm going to show you how to cover it up. Okay? Now, how does compaction affect plants? Well, first of all, roots can't grow deep, and there's no structure. They lack oxygen. The roots lack oxygen because there's no air. Okay? And they create plant toxic compounds because what you've done is compacted that top layer underneath the ground, and then it creates pathogens. It kills plants. So, here is the well-drained soil. Most annuals that you grow in your crop, grow for a crop, will go 36 inches deep, including mustard. They'll go 36 inches to 48 inches deep if they have plenty of air. All right? Now, as you get to poor and poorer, where you have compaction, now you're sitting at 5 to 6 inches deep. Everybody thinks that's normal. That isn't normal. You don't want shallow root systems. You want it to be just like that. And as we've gone along through the years, we have created this environment. It's gone more and more to shallow roots. Because now we have to feed it, we have to do more irrigation, the overhead irrigation, and we have to put more fertilizer on, because all they're getting is this much. Okay? Is this making sense to you? All right. Here is a corn pulled out of the ground, and they're wondering why it wasn't doing well. It's because it had compacted soil below it. Now, how do we repair compaction? Now, this is very important for you to understand. Small garden, big garden. Very, very important to understand, because you can have all the most wonderful biology in the top 6 inches of layer, but you're still going to have poor root structure because it's not going deep enough. You've got to repair. Now, we were covering, put this black plastic out of the clear plastic, cover it all the way up, and cook your grass, and cook your weeds, and cook your pathogens, and it'll go, you know, as long as you watered it really well, it'll cook it all the way down, and when you pull it back, all you have is organic matter on the top that's died. Don't take it off. Leave it in there. All right? Now, we want to repair that compaction. There's a compaction there, so you pull it off, don't till it. Shame on you. Now, let me tell you this. If you were to till your field, you have organic matter in your field, all right, and you till it. The next week, it's 1/2 the amount of organic matter. Did you know that? Every time you till, you cut in half the organic matter in your soil. Why is that? Well, you cut it up in little tiny pieces, and it evaporates into the air. Now I'll show you this study next week and it'll shock you. All right? But we'll go on. Compaction. All right. Now with the correct, we want to do correct penetration of the soil horizons. We don't want to take the organic, flip it upside down, and change the structure of the soil. We want that structure of the soil to be exactly like God made it, where we have the O horizon, which is the organic matter, the OH horizon, which is the organic with the humus, and then all the way down these horizons. We want it that way because that's the way God made it. All right? So there is a way to do this correctly, and we're going to show you. All right? We want to inoculate the soil with biology. That's how the biology will fix your compaction, but we've got to get it below the compaction zone. Okay? And then leave protection on the soil when a crop is not planted. So here is the proper way if you had a tractor. Okay? You take this and you pull it through the ground straight. You're not changing the structure of the soil. All you're doing is breaking through the compaction zone, which is sitting right here. You're going under it and breaking it up. All right? So as a field, as a farmer like I am, that's what I own. Okay? But a different type of machine. It's a little different. Okay? So what it's going to do, it's going to cut through. It's not going to change this structure of the soil. It's not going to flip it upside down. It's going to break through that compaction zone, go below it. Okay? That's my machine right there. Now what I've done is I put two 55-gallon drums on it, a place to fill up and put my biological mixture in it. All right? And then on the back, I have these tubes that as this goes through the ground, 24 inches deep, it will shoot this biology down into that area. Okay? All right, so that's what I have. Now I'm going to show you an easy way to do it for yourself. Okay? Now this is for my fields, and I use these other things. Now some people go out and drill a bunch of holes through it. That's just way too much work. Yes?
How do you call that process? The one that you cut through breaking down?
That's a chisel plow.
Chisel plow.
Chisel plow. It just chisels through. It doesn't change the structure. It keeps all the horizons exactly the same. It just breaks through that thing, cuts a little furrow. You drop your biology in that furrow, and then it starts working for you. Now, once you get the biology underneath the compaction zone, it will eat that compaction zone in 3 weeks. It'll be gone. As long as the biology's there. It'll be completely destroyed. You have good biology injected in. Okay? Now, some people drill holes and then they go to the forest, they pour their forest soil down in there, and they do all kinds of things. But I'm going to show you an easier way. All right? Now, if you have grass, they have these machines that punch holes in the grass. Okay? And golf courses do this all the time. They punch holes in the grass, and once they punch hole, then the water can go down, and their nutrients can go down, and the O2 can go down, and now you get new root development. You see? So everybody in the farming industry understands this. It's just the people at home don't understand this anymore. Okay? So as long as you understand this, what you want to do is get that opened up to the air below the compaction zone. All right, here's another one where they punch holes. You know, it's an artist's rendition, so the water and the nutrients and everything can go down and then break up that compaction zone. That's what it looks like when they get through it. When they go on a golf course, when they go on your grass lawn, and you want to fix your compaction, that's what they do. All right? Now, homemade compaction repair. Okay, now here's the deal. You have to first of all determine where's your compaction zone. And in my field, it's 9 inches because why? My moldboard plow is 9 inches. Okay? So then I disc it. So I moldboard plow it, I disc it, and I did all this ignorantly for many years. What you want to do now is you want to fix this problem. And what you want to do is figure out where your compaction zone is. And for you, it's probably sitting somewhere around 6 to 9 inches. Probably. So don't worry about having to have this meter. If you want to use my meter, I don't have a problem with that. Or if you want me to come over and measure it and look at your biology, I don't have a problem with that. I'll do that for free. Where's Pat today? She's not here. Okay, so at any rate, here's the easy way. This is our soil compaction repair tool. Basically, it's a 3/4 inch galvanized pipe with a hose adapter on the end. So this adapts this galvanized pipe to a hose. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our hose and attach it to the galvanized pipe with this hose adapter. All right? And then we're just going to turn the water on. So, Now, if you were ever a kid, you did this trick at home anyway. So you just take it. Now, this is the hardest part of my land. You just drive it in the earth, and it will drill a hole. So now you went past the compaction layer. That is a 5-foot pipe that's gone. Now, you don't have to go that deep, but it's just that simple. What you want to do is go in your garden area and punch a bunch of holes right through that compaction zone. And when you get through, you want to fill up your holes with that forest soil and compost and anything else that might have biology. Okay, so that's what it usually look like when you get through, a bunch of holes punched in your area. Now, when you take your black plastic off, go around and now punch a bunch of holes with this pipe, with this water. Just punch a bunch of holes. Now go into your forest. I'm going to show you how to get that. Carter, you had a question.
Yeah, you said on there to fill the holes with something.
Yes. Okay. That's a key point. You fill the hole with something biologically rich. Now, if you don't have any biology on your land, you go out in the forest, you get some humus. And I'm going to show you how to get that in just a moment. Okay? Okay, so now here is a point that you always protect your soil. You never have bare ground. You never, 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 never have bare ground. You don't want that. Now, there's some times where you have to have it because you're preparing the land or whatever. But basically, I'm going to show you. I want you to look at these 2 rows, actually 3 rows. This one here has armor on it. I've covered it with pine bark. This one I have not. It's going to get covered this next week. Basically, I'm trying to inoculate this soil with the biology before I cover it. This one has been inoculated. That one has been inoculated. And then I covered them and I put them to bed until the fall garden. So on this one, you'll notice when you look down, this is pretty dry soil. It's powder dry until you get down about an inch and a half. It's powder dry. So, the way we avoid it is to cover it. It also causes it to be cooler, and microbes grow better in the cool. So when we pull this aside, and we pull this back, it's completely wet. There's not a dry piece of earth in here. It's all completely damp. Now, that's about, probably about 40% damp on the surface. And that's enough to get the microbes growing well. So you cover them for protection. So when you put your garden in, and you take your plants out, pull all your weeds out, and then cover them with a living mulch, with a mulch. You take this, could be pine bark, it could be all kinds of different things. You want to cover it, and that'll protect the soil from drying out and baking in the sun. Okay, now do you know what the temperature is of the soil without the pine bark? 92 degrees. Do you know what the soil temperature is with the one with the pine bark? 78. Does that make a big difference, guys? So understand that, thank you, sir. Understand that what you want to do is cooperate with nature. Try to keep it as cool as possible. Try to keep the weeds from growing back and cover it up. Don't let the sun bake it dry as a bone. You want to be friendly. Now, is it better to grow an acre garden or a 20-foot by 4-foot? If 24 by 4 foot, you can make it perfect, do that. Don't have this acre garden that it's covered in weeds and you can't get anything out of it. Do what you can do first. Take the smallest amount, and when you perfected it, you get your 4 foot by 20 foot, and you could grow a lot of food in a 4 foot by 20 foot spot. Make it perfect. Do every single thing right, and then say, okay, now I can jump into a next section. And do it little by little, incrementally improve your situation. Okay? Now biology. Here's where we go with that, Carter. Now this guy is taking a biological mix and injecting it like that pipe, and I take it and do that. I did that to an orange grove this past week in Gainesville. A lady was having a problem, or orange groves were dying. I went and tested her soil. It had only pathogens in her soil and nothing good. And so what I did is I injected a bunch of good biology in the root zone with that pipe. And I have a tank that I mix up my biological mix and a pump, and I hook it up to a hose, and I just drive this stuff right into the root zone. Okay? And that's what he's doing there. He's going to save this orchard, basically, by injecting this biological mix with this pipe. It could be a half-inch pipe, it could be a three-quarter-inch pipe, it really doesn't matter, as long as you get it into the root zone. All right? Now, here is a golf course that their grass was dying. They didn't know what was wrong. They had a compaction zone right here, and it was all turning black. So they took the biology that they got from a compost plow that had been inoculated with forest soil, and they sprayed it on there from August the 3rd, and they sprayed 3 applications, okay? And that's how it looked after 3 applications on September 26th. Almost all the black is gone, and it all revived. So you can take just about any situation and fix it with biology. What you want to do is overcome the poisons with a lot of biology. The biology fixes it for you, okay? Where to find the biology? Now I'm going to have a series of videos in here that I took when Nan was gone on vacation to see our grandbaby. And I didn't have anything to do, so I went out in the forest, like I don't have.
When you see an old tree, say for instance this tree, which actually is dead, you see the base of it's turning black. If you go up to the base of that tree, right around that tree, it'll be very soft, so soft that you'll sink down 3 or 4 inches. That's a bed of rich biology.
The biology's eating that tree. So anytime you see a dead tree, that biology is consuming that dead tree. Okay? Now look at this next one.
Now just because there are a lot of leaves on the ground, that doesn't mean there's necessarily a lot of humus. What you have to do is dig down and look. And basically, we're down to soil here. That's not humus. That's just soil. And it may have some microbiology in it, but it's not going to be the richest.
Now there was another area on the trail that was black underneath the leaves, but this wasn't. And I took a picture of that when I lost the video. So, but we'll go on.
I'm going down this trail, and if you'll notice this huge live oak tree. It didn't grow there overnight, trust me. It's been here for more years than you have been on this earth.
So how old is that biology?
Look at the size of the girth of this tree. It is massive, massive. And you know the microbiology under this tree is as old.
Now that tree is probably 200 years old or better. They have a tree in St. Augustine. I did a tour on St. Augustine, and they take you by Howard Johnson's. There's a tree, and the guy said, he told us this was the oldest live oak tree in Florida. Back when Ponce de Leon came, he noted this tree and made notes of it. It was big at that time, and that was so many years ago. They estimate it to be 500 years old. So when you look at one of these huge live oak trees, you know the biology under that tree is just as old as they are, unless somebody's been raking the leaves away. But if you go in the forest, you're going to see some amazing stuff.
When you look at this forest, you see various stages of decomposition, and it will be rich in microbiology. Now I want you to see this old tree. That's an old live oak tree. It is so old, the girth around it is so big, and the limbs have fallen. It looks like it's been decaying for 20 or 30 years. Underneath that is rich humus. See this old tree? It's kind of hard to see with a dim light.
6 foot.
But the base,
arm to arm, I couldn't reach it.
It is
it's hard to see in this perspective, but that's how old this
rich
tree is.
all around the base.
Now,
We're going to dig into this. What I want you to do is see this. See this rich, rich, black earth.
It was 7:30 at night.
This
so it's getting
is so
dusk.
full
That's in
of
San Blasco
nutrients,
State Park.
biology, that you could grow like crazy in it. That's beneath this old live oak tree that's been decaying for many, many years. All around it is probably a 3 foot deep of humus. I've dug down in this area for 20 times at least, and I never get to the bottom of it. It's beautiful, rich, black earth.
Now, I've looked at this stuff under the microscope. It's amazing.
This is the branch that has fallen, and you'll notice it has all kinds of mushrooms all over this branch. That's an indication that's fungus or fungi. You'll notice there are white chunks in there. Well, that's fungus.
Okay.
This is a compaction meter.
Okay, I got that one. Got that one. Fire ants. Everybody wants to know about fire ants. Yes.
Question three. In the beginning of the video,
Yes.
you said that it was consuming the tree,
Yes.
but that is a dead tree, I assume.
It's a dead tree.
Okay.
Okay.
Once it's fallen,
So what's happened is this tree dies of old age or whatever. Now the microbes consume it. They decompose it. They are the decomposers. The fungi and the bacteria are God's decomposers. They take it, chew that up, and feed it to the trees all around. That's what God does. He does it to the leaves. He does it to, He set this whole program up. Now you take that soil and put it in your holes, water it in, that garden will grow like you would not believe. It'll shock you. Okay? Now, the better way is to take that and put it in a compost mix that I'm going to talk to you about next week, and let it grow in your compost mix over and over again. You don't have to keep going back out to the forest and getting it. You understand? So you're going to raise it from that point on. You're going to grow your biology in a compost pile, and then take that compost pile and make compost teas out of it, and compost extract, and constantly feed your soil, and turn everything. And you don't have to keep going out in the forest. You go out one time, you're done. Okay? That's starting next week. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Barbie.
What forest are you allowed to go in?
Oh, you know what? I don't ask permission to do anything, because I'm a park kid. My father was a park ranger, and we just did what we wanted to do. So I go in my backpack, and they think I'm doing a day hike, and I'm going out looking for soil here and soil there, and I'm bringing 40 pounds out of the woods every time I go. I don't think anybody's going to miss it, trust me. So I went to Osceola National Forest last Sunday, and I got me a whole pile. All right? Now, fire ants. Let's cover this one, and then I'm going to show you the difference between humus and non-humus, okay? So we're going to have to hurry. Everybody's been asking me how to get rid of fire ants healthfully that doesn't destroy the biology of your soil. This is the fungus that kills them dead. And you can get it in a package. It's called Botanicard 22WP. This is what it does to it. That's an ant. All right? You take and put a teaspoon of this in a gallon jug, shake it up. I'll show it to you in a minute. You shake that thing up and pour it in your ant pile, they're gone.
Go back
Now-
to that spelling.
Now, I'm going to, okay, let's go back to the spelling, but I have it in the end too. All right? Because I knew everybody, whoop, let's go back.
there you go.
All right. That's the brand name. That's what you want to put on the internet. That's the brand name right there. Now it costs, for a pound of it, it costs $90. But a pound of it will last you, you might want to split it up or get a smaller amount, but I buy $90 worth, okay? Now, it takes a teaspoon, put it in a gallon jug, shake it up, pour it on it. They're gone. They are completely gone. They don't move their hole over there. They're gone. Completely gone. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but you'll pour it on this to get rid of it, and they're over there tomorrow. This doesn't do that, and it's healthy for the soil. The problem with it is it also kills your beneficial insects. You have to be really careful how you use it, because it turns them into fuzzballs. Now, that's not a beneficial. That one, I hate this guy. I really hate this guy. Caterpillars, but it eats them up. It just eats up the bugs. This is a stink bug. You got a problem with stink bugs? All you have to do is take and put it in a pump-up sprayer or put it in a spray bottle, spray your plants. When they walk across it, they get that. That's it. But it hurts the beneficials, so you have to be careful.
What is it?
It's fungus. It's fungal spores that sit on the leaf surface, and as the ants or anything crawl across it, It gets on them and it starts growing on their bodies. And it eats them up from the outside in. Yes? Cockroaches, termites. People are spraying them now in their walls, drilling holes if they have termites, and spraying them in there, and it kills them all dead.
What type of protection?
It doesn't harm you. You can even breathe it. It will not hurt you as a human. It will not hurt your pets. It will not hurt any human. You can drink it in your water and not hurt you. Yes, it only hurts the bugs. Now, I always, whenever I use fungus or mix anything, I always use a face mask. Just because I just don't want to have anything in my lungs. It doesn't belong. It lasts a long time. As long as that plant is still alive, it will still be on there. So, that's a spider. Now, spiders for farmers are good guys. But I just want you to see, if you have them in your house, you can spray. You can take this stuff and you won't even know it's there. Just spray it along your baseboards, and that's what it'll do to them. Cockroaches and all. Yes, sir. All right, so this is what it's called. I said I was going to come back to it because I knew everybody would see it and say, I got to have that. Okay, and here's a picture of it. All right, that's what it's called. And it comes in a little Ziploc thing. You just break open the top, and then you can refill it and use it as long as you want. And it lasts a long, long time. I tell you, a teaspoon a gallon, that's all you have to use.
Will it affect the fruits?
But it will not affect the fruits in a negative way. So, it's some good stuff. It's biologically beneficial to your soil. You really have to be afraid when you spray it on your bumblebees. So, now bumblebees are not going to really get on your plants. They're going to go on your flowers. So if you're really careful, you can take this stuff and spray it on your leaves and stay away from your flowers. Okay? Just all the way around. But don't spray it on your flowers because your beneficials are going to go to your flowers. Okay? That's just my opinion. This in large quantities is a controlled substance because farmers would have a tendency to spray it on 150 acres and kill every honeybee in the area. They're just, that's how farmers are. You can buy it in 1 pound or less, and it's not controlled. All right, now I want to show you this. All right, now I've got water. Can you put the water up here, Alex, please? You're strong.
Carlos, where can we get this?
That you can get on Amazon.com.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. For $89.94, free shipping. All right. Now what I want you to do is see this. These look like pretty much the same kind of soil, right? All right. Now how do you know if you got the good stuff or not? You either have to have a microscope or you do this test. All right? All right. Here's the test. So you don't have to have a microscope. Now, where's my little where's my things now?
What else did you
My, oh, here they are. All right. Now this is when I take my compost to make compost tea and compost extract. Okay, well I fill this up with compost, and then I put it in the water. That's all you have to do, okay? Now I'm going to put this down because you guys are going to be able to see this. Okay, now I take this compost. This is one compost. Yeah, you're a good girl. I tell you what, that's why I'm very good. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to tie this up. Now, how you make compost tea, or actually this is what they call compost extract. We're going to cover this next week in detail. You take it and put it in this. Now, you get one of these bags. They're not very expensive, guys. These are pretty cheap bags. That's 400 microns. If it doesn't say 400 microns on it, do not buy it. Because the biology will not go from this. What you're trying to do is extract the biology from here and put it in your water. And then you take and put it in a watering can and water your garden. That's how simple this is. Okay, it's a real simple process. They call that, this is an extract. Now, we're going to put this in there, and all you do is you massage it for 30 seconds. You see it turning dark? All right, so most of this is silt. Okay? And the reason why I say that, it's silty. All right? Now, you see what happened? It's like a tea, tea color. Now, what you do is you let it sit in there. After you massage it for 30 seconds, you massage it really good. What happens is the biology, when you massage it, the biology from that compost will go right into the water. Now, the reason why you'd want to do that instead of put the compost right on top of the soil is they're going to have a tendency to stay in their first home. They don't want to leave. No, I'm scared. I don't want to leave. Basically, okay? So So you want it in there, and once it gets in the water, it goes right down, perks right through the soil, continues to go. All right? Now, let's go to the next one. Now, what I want you to do is this. I'm not going to take a lot of this. This is my good stuff. This is the good stuff, okay? Now, what I want you to do is see, when you look at this, it might not show up real good, but it should be pretty good. My wife she is just a wonderful woman. All right. Now, if you were to take that, look at this brown stuff. You see which one's darker? All right. In an hour, that one will be clear right to here. This one will be dark for as long as it sits in there. It'll stay suspended. It will not settle because it's the good stuff. Now, the reason why I know it's the good stuff is I already tested it. All right? So, you test it. Now, what I want you to do is just take a peek. When you leave here, when you're leaving here, I want you guys to come over here and look at the difference in this to this, and you're going to see this settling out and this not settling out. When you go to the forest, you think it's good stuff. Do your little test. This is already getting clear. This is going to stay dark for the rest of the time. It will never, ever, ever settle out. You can keep this for 14 years. It'll stay this color. Okay, why? Humus, it's humic acid, and humic acid is water soluble and flows right into the molecular structure of the water. It doesn't settle out. It's not heavier. It's not mixed up like you'd put it in a blender. Boom, now it's mixed up, and then you'll come back to that blender and it's settled all out. This will never settle out, ever. It will stay there because it's humic acid. Okay, now, when you buy, yes?
At your place, you've got the aerator going in your tank.
Yes.
Which one of these two?
This. I don't use this. This is actually one compost pile that I'm making that's half finished. That's why I know it's going to do this. Okay, it's not done yet. All right.
The aerator is to do what?
That's going to be covered next week. Next week we're going to cover the aerator and the compost tea, extractors, and all of that, and how to bake compost. Now, when you come up here and look at this, as you leave, just come up here. You're going to see the difference in this. You need to know this because you don't have to have a microscope to figure this one out. All you have to do is understand that's complete, that's not done yet. That's how you test your compost piles. I think it's done. Well, go and test it. Because now what they do, when you go to the store and you buy humic acid powder, they take this water and they distill it. And then at the end is a little tiny powder. That little powder would be equal to about a quarter of a teaspoon of humic acid powder. That would be. And it doesn't take much. But that humic acid is the life of your plants. That's that brown layer in the O horizon, the OH horizon, OH, humus. That's the stuff right there. Now, you can spray this 3 weeks on your fields. Go out and spray it like a boom sprayer. It'll start feeding your microbes and they'll go, wow! They'll just grow up wonderful. And they will take over your whole garden for you. The ones that are there still alive. You can see the difference now, can't you? Is this amazing? All right, so when you go to the forest, get your little, you want to extract them. So you're going to have some with a 400 micron and put them in there and massage it like this, vigorously for 30 seconds. And then you're going to transfer your microbes into the water and then take a watering can and water it on your small garden if you have a small garden. If you have a big garden, you put it in your boom sprayer. Okay?
Carlitos, where can we purchase those bags and what are the name of them?
This is a compost tea bag. Compost tea bag, and that one came from Amazon.com.
400?
400 micron. If it doesn't say 400, it's 200, and they will not pass through. Do not buy it. I'm telling you, that is a warning that you're going to throw away your money. Got to be 400 or greater. Okay, I think we got it. It's time. I think we did everything. Any questions? Yes.
you had talked to my husband on the phone, and you told him that we could not grow in our soil.
Well, now, he explained to me what's going on in your soil. And if you want, I'll talk to you afterwards and go over details of what your husband said and you said, he said, and I don't want to embarrass anybody said. But I don't know if he's telling me the whole story or not. Or he was repeating stuff on the phone that I wasn't saying, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, don't want to get between you two. So.
Oh, no, it wouldn't cause any problem.
Okay.
I just wanted to
Okay,
know.
let me mention this to you. That we'll go partially.
Okay.
Okay, anytime you have a tree root, you have a tree that's dominating the area.
Yeah,
All right? So you have tree roots going everywhere under your garden.
yeah.
It's putting out exudates. That exudate's attracting fungus that tree wants to feed it all through the whole area. That fungus is now sending out a parasite fungus to kill everything in the area. So what you have to understand is these trees are selfish.
Oh,
And they're sitting there saying, I am not going to let you grow. You think you are? But before long, I'm going to kill you dead in a doornail. And so you can put an orange tree there, but that orange tree is going to be dead pretty soon. You can put a brassica there, some kale, but that kale's going to die. Why? Because that tree, who's the largest, the biggest, he's the bully on the block, he's going to control everything in that area. That's why when you planted some close to those woods, Ernie, it killed it. It just would not let it grow because that fungal parasite came out and attacked those ones closest to its roots. So when you make your garden, you have a forest all the way around, all the way around. You want your garden right in the middle, as far away from every tree as possible. That's where you want your garden. Not near the roots. If you've got roots out there and they're all underneath, you're not going to grow anything until you clear that.
We always thought it was the sun.
Yeah, it isn't the sun.
And the shade had killed those.
Yeah.
but how can we tell how far away from the roots?
Okay, how far away is it? How far away do the roots go? As a general rule, they go to the tree line on most. Okay, so you come out, you see that tree line, if you had a bob string and you run that thing down, that's about where the roots are, from there in. I would not grow within 30 feet of that.
30 feet.
Then go 30 feet, and from that point on, you're pretty safe. So that's the general rule, not totally, but the general.
Give us again the rule.
The rule is you go to the tree line, you see a branch coming out like that. Oh, right there. Okay, so the branch comes right at the edge of that line. Boom. Measure 20, 30 feet. 30 feet that way, then make your garden.
From the sugar bowl.
Yeah.
Question. How far are the cedar trees?
Cedar trees put down straight roots to the ground. Cedar trees, they have the deepest of all taproots. So,
Regarding for any bacteria and fungus to the surrounding trees?
they will.
They will.
They will. Now, when you go into a forest, I don't know if you've noticed, have you noticed, and we're going to cover this, there are what they call companion trees, companion vegetables, where you grow two things together, they grow better than if they grew apart. Well, oaks and hickories and sweet gums, they're all that family group. That you go into a forest, it's oaks, hickories, and sweet gums. Oaks, hickories, and sweet gums. You go in this forest, it's just pines, 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 pines. There's a reason for that. It's because they're controlling the underground, what's going to grow there. I don't care how many birds come in and bring seeds, those pine trees are just not going to let them grow. So, now, you get a forest of hardwoods next to a pine. Who's going to win that battle? Well, the hardwoods are going to win it every time. They're going to encroach, 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 encroach. And this is what we had in Florida. When Ponce de Leon was here, he went through and calculated all this stuff, and we had these huge pine trees. They're virgin pines. They were huge in diameter, and there were fields and fields and fields of them. Now, what happened? We cut them down, and then we made farms, and then we let it grow up, and then they encroached into the next field of pines. And so what they're trying to do is make it more like the more natural when Ponce de Leon was around. So they're girdling these exotic species of trees, they're cutting them around, down through the cambium layer, and letting them die straight up, and then they become a habitat for all kinds of creatures that fall down in little pieces. But basically, when you get these forests, They're controlling the habitat. And as long as you understand that they are in control, you are not. Don't fight them. If you got them, you've got to get rid of them. You have to get rid of them. If you want a garden, you can't. Now think about this. I made this mistake. I put these concrete grow boxes. Okay, so they're 50 foot long, 4 feet wide. I got 4 of them, and in between them, I put in 4 apple trees and 4 peach trees and a persimmon tree, and I put all these trees all around them. Guess what they did? They grew right up into my grow boxes. The roots. I started digging down in my grow boxes, and they had roots coming up in them. They'll control everything. I had to dig them out with my skid steer. Take them out. I'm going to put them in the middle of the field. Now I had to kill them. But you understand, once you start, you have to say, how far do I have to go with this? If you want a garden, you cannot have trees. Yes?
We have a nectarine tree and a palm tree, and we got the big trees on this side and the big trees on that side, and they're in the middle.
They're not going to make it.
They're not going to make it.
Nah. This orange grove that I went to, I walked up and I said, these 2 rows are not going to make it, this row's going to do just fine. How do you know that? Well, I walked over here to the tree line and I saw what they got. And I explained to them this process. Those trees are not going to make it. Well, do your best. Well, they're still not going to make it, and I don't want you to blame me when they don't. I'll spend all this time inoculating your root systems. They're not going to make it unless you take those trees out. Or you move them out in the middle of your field. Yes. Okay, gotta go. I'm on the platform, guys, so I have to go. And look at this mess. Can anybody help me? Oh, we gotta have closing prayer.
Yes.
All right. Bert, you want to pray?
Yeah. Heavenly Father, once again, we're so blessed to be able to have this knowledge shared with us, and we ask that you would bless Chuck as he continues. We just thank you for all your blessings, for your love, your mercy, your grace. If we just choose to live in harmony with the rules of nature that you have placed, we would do well. We just thank you, we love you, and we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.